is a highway in India, near Delhi.
Smile.
The smog here was so thick, drivers couldn't see where they were going.
Damn, dude. Can you watch this?
At least 24 vehicles were damaged, as drivers kept crashing into the pileup.
Pogu.
Damn, this is crazy. What the fuck?
These conditions happen every year when Delhi experiences a huge spike in air pollution.
Damn,
Are we
dude.
breathing poison in Delhi?
Every 2 minutes, one.
Why should you know the fucking road, dude?
Crossing.
Breathing
Guys, you know what's worse than actual sand and smog?
11
Reporters going in the middle of a
months
fucking
now,
street, dude.
poison in Delhi.
Every 2 minutes, one person dies due to air pollution in this country.
I get
1 year
nauseous, I
of
get
use.
dizzy.
हॉस्पिटल या फैमिली डॉक्टर के पास जाके दिखाना पड़ता है.
When it hits, the nearly 30 million people here are forced to live in a toxic cloud.
Jesus.
Scientists estimate that spending a day outside in these conditions is like smoking 50 cigarettes.
As a lung surgeon, when I open the chest, I rarely see a normal pink lung these days.
On the ground, a layer of dust covers the entire city. And in the air, a thick layer of pollution hides landmarks
Really? Is that
are
permanent?
easy to see the rest of the year. Delhi has always been a big, busy, polluted city. But in the last decade, something is making it even worse.
Lungs can heal. That's cool, dude. Easy healing.
In the last 10 years, Delhi's population has grown by more than 7 million people. Today, it's the second largest city in the world, and it's also among the most polluted.
Jesus.
More people means more cars, spreading dust and exhaust into the air. As Delhi grows, there's also more construction, producing dust particles, and more industries contaminating the environment. All these things make the average air quality in Delhi unhealthy year-round. But something else is happening right here. When air pollution in Delhi spikes in October and November, it sends air pollution levels to 50 times what's considered safe.
Levels go haywire. Many of the machines are not made to measure the levels that we achieve.
The smog is so bad you can see it from space. But this cloud of pollution isn't actually coming from Delhi. It's coming from here. The states of Punjab and Haryana are known as India's breadbasket. They're a key region for the country's agriculture. Farmers here grow rice, and that requires large amounts of water. In the 2000s, rice farming here took off, and farmers in the area started using so much water that the region's groundwater started running low. So to save water, authorities passed a new act in 2009.
Yeah, it's like
it bans
space,
rice
dude.
planting before mid-June. That means farmers can't plant rice until right before the monsoon season, when rains come to
what's
replenish the
monsoon?
groundwater. That pushes rice harvesting later into the year, which means farmers have less time to get their fields ready for their next crop. So to clear the fields more quickly, more and more farmers have started setting their crop stubble on fire. Every year, all those stubble fires form a massive cloud of smoke during October and November, and it heads straight for Delhi. There are two
What the
reasons why
fuck?
smoke in this region makes things worse in Delhi. The first is geography. The Himalayan mountains act like a kind of barrier directing the smoke towards Delhi. The second is the weather. During the winter, cold mountain air rushes down from the Himalayas towards Delhi,
Makes it go up.
arriving beneath a layer of warm, lowland air that creates a kind of dome over the city. The warm air keeps pollution trapped on the ground with nowhere to go. So when the stubble fire smoke arrives in Delhi, it mixes with the urban pollution, forming a toxic smog that sits on top of the city. Mix all that together, and you have the most hazardous air pollution of almost anywhere.
Jesus.
In November of 2019, India's Supreme Court ruled that states in the north had to stop farmers from burning their crop stubble. But so far,
Guys,
the ruling
can they really enforce this that much?
hasn't been enforced on the ground.
Oh.
In the weeks after the ruling, tens of thousands of crop fires continue to burn in Punjab and Haryana. Delhi doesn't have the ability to stop crop burning in neighboring states. Instead, when pollution spikes in October and November, city officials change the things they can control. Sometimes they'll halt all construction in the city or put restrictions on vehicle use. Still, until India's ban on crop stubble burning is actually enforced, these spikes will be back every year.
I'm not clicking, my hands are here.
Already dangerous pollution even worse, and putting the lives of millions at risk.
आज हमको 50-70 साल हो गए दिल्ली रहते हुए, तो आज दिल्ली से कहाँ जाएंगे? हमारी रोजी रोटी सब कुछ यहीं पे है.
We are taking baby steps, but we're in a time period where baby steps won't help anymore.
Alright, man.
What we breathe should be a fresh air.
No, that sucks. Okay, next. It's not about fighting all the battles and winning them with pride. It's about choosing your battles, losing some to win the war. It's always about winning the war, yo. Winning the war, most important thing, dude. Winning the war is winning life, getting the juice. A loss, you know, a failure, a this or that, that's a battle, dude. Who gives a fuck? There's a million of them, dude. You lose one, dude, there's like 100,000 coming up, dude.
With a bunch of signs.
Today, I lose game, dude. I lose the battle. Okay, who wins the war, dude? Who wins the war? Who goes on stage? Who walks up on the podium? Who gets the award? Who raised the trophy above everybody? Who gets the juice? I get the juice! I get the juice!
Signs, traffic lights, and boundaries, and one with no markings or apparent rules at all. Which one would look safer to you? Towns all over Europe are starting to experiment with streets like this, where cars, bikes, buses, and people can travel freely in the same space.
I think this looks like an accident waiting to happen, but I know someone who would know a lot more about this than I do.
I'm Roman Mars from 99% Invisible, and that's what urban planners often refer to
this is
as
just,
shared...
I don't want to be mean to EU friends, chat, but I went to EU for France, dude, and driving is a fucking disaster. You know, dude, I will take my cracks in the road and my trash attitude from drivers from Canada, dude, okay? How? Oh.
Space design strategy. It seems counterintuitive.
Fucking roundabouts, dude.
Getting rid of
fucking honking.
Might make our
oh my god, dude. Guys, somebody braked for 1 point. Oh no, something's incompleted.
If I showed you
fucking bitches, dude.
So, how does it work? There's a spot in Google Street View where you can witness a town undergoing this exact transformation. This is Poynton, England, about 20 minutes away from Manchester. Here's the city center in May 2011. There's a mess of signs and lights, a few small sidewalks, and some haphazard guardrails to keep pedestrians safe. And here it is in July 2015. Traffic lights, road signs, curbs, all gone.
Something very strange is happening on the streets of Britain. I don't know if you've noticed, but in some places, pavements and roads have been blurring into one with cars, buses and pedestrians all sharing the same space.
The town spent £4 million to expand sidewalk space and strip the city center of traditional demarcations. Now, the only marker left is this little sign, Poynton Shared Space Village.
The concept is that the absence of separation will make everyone more cautious, so commuters slow down.
Guys, who thought of this? What the fuck is this? Guys, am I crazy? What the fuck is this?
So commuters slow down, make eye contact, and negotiate. Watch what happens when a boy in Poynton is encouraged to cross the street without waiting for the cars to clear the intersection. Because cars don't spend time waiting at traffic lights, it takes less time on average for them to get through the crossing.
Ooh, I don't think I like that.
And pedestrians are absent, cars drive slow due to a concept called edge friction. It's the idea that nearby vertical elements in a driver's peripheral vision, like trees or lamps, create a visual cue for how fast they're going. On a highway, those are often totally absent, so the sidelines blur. In a shared space, those lines play an important mental trick to slow down drivers. In theory, shared space works well for pedestrians, allowing them to follow their desired path while walking. Instead of being limited to a strict path, they can walk exactly in the direction they want to go.
In practice, that doesn't always seem to be the case. Video footage of a shared space at Elwick Square in Ashford, England shows that pedestrians mostly still stick to crosswalks, or where a crosswalk would be.
That's largely because these layouts are stressful. The majority of a survey group asked about crossing Elwick Square reported feeling anxious about it. And those pedestrians frequently report that they prefer things the way they used to be.
But the way things used to be is relative. If you look at old footage of city streets in the early 1900s, cars mixed freely with pedestrians, bicyclists, and streetcars. Vehicles couldn't go very fast back then, so there wasn't a huge concern about separating them from walkers and bikers. With plenty of city streets, that's still the case, without any intentional urban planning. But the big question is whether these deliberately stripped-down designs actually make people safer.
It seems that in many cases, they do. For one thing,
Isn't that confusing,
we know that the number of accidents drops after shared spaces are installed.
Guys,
in Ipswich.
Guys, this is just my thoughts, okay, chat. I feel like when you have a country, dude, and you're like a government, dude, you want your people not to think. The more humans have to think, the more that leaves them space for error, and the more to make mistakes, okay? People are generally stupid. I'm stupid. You're probably stupid too. We're both stupid. The more that the road signs and the road lets us think, the more we fucking die. That's just kind of how it is.
Rates of accidents involving injuries fell from 23 over 3 years to just 1 per year. In London's Kensington High Street, the number of pedestrians injured dropped by nearly 60%. And in Drachten, in the Netherlands, accidents at one intersection fell from 36 in 4 years to 2 in 2 years.
We also know that shared spaces are quantifiably more free-flowing based on analysis of traffic conflicts.
Oh, I lost a chest and 6 move, dude. I lost her mom in 2 pumps.
Video footage like this from Exhibition Road in London, analysts can rate the severity of a traffic...
What?
Are you going to eat your spaghetti or should I save it?
Save it a little bit. Oh, yeah, I'll eat it right now then.
No.
Yeah.
Conflict based on the participant's speed and change of course. Before the shared space renovation, one pedestrian had to step back onto the sidewalk to avoid a departing car. Another broke out into a sprint to avoid getting hit by an oncoming van. After the shared space installation, traffic conflicts were less frequent and less severe on average, like this, where pedestrians wait for a cab to cross before continuing. Or this one, where a cyclist changes course to avoid pedestrians.
But that doesn't mean these designs work for everyone.
I think it's the most ludicrous idea I've ever heard. What about
chat, what is this fucking like dude, LSD simulator fucking background, dude? Guys, most people that watch this show aren't like kids that need to be mentally stimulated. They're like 80-year-old fucking boomers in skeletons. Motherfucker, what is that background? I'm gonna have a seizure.
What about
Me too.
Blind people?
Who thought of this?
Children. You know.
From the beginning, shared space designs have been under fire for providing insufficient protections for disabled pedestrians, especially the visually impaired.
The family of a pensioner who died a month after being hit by a bus have called for traffic lights to be reinstalled at the junction.
Traffic lights here were recently removed to make way for a so-called shared space, but it's a move which has angered David's family.
I'm sure if the traffic lights were there, this wouldn't have happened.
A 2015 House of Lords report called for a temporary ban on shared space designs. And in August 2016, a select committee of the House of Commons launched an inquiry into the accessibility of such environments. Their final report in April 2017 asked the government to put all shared space schemes on hold until they improved the process of consulting disabled communities. Preliminary designs like these by the Danish Building Research Institute give us an idea of what that balance might look like. They include both the mixed traffic of shared space and the raised street textures and button-activated crosswalks that disabled users are used to. Shared spaces can be effective, but for this kind of plan to work across communities, it will require a lot more research to determine what will work in different places and what will serve the needs of all the people sharing the streets.
Chat, is there stats on what's technically on paper practically safer?